Welcome everybody to another exciting episode on the Sunday evening with Bitcoin Live. Today, a guest you might have seen many times on our show. He did two programs, Bitcoin is Freedom and Bitcoin and Politics. Paul McNeal, the crypto curator. Welcome back to Bitcoin Live.
Hey, Nick. Thanks for having me back, man. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a minute. Yeah, you've been very busy. And this is, like I said, a special episode. It's dedicated to you. Also, sort of to thank you for the collaboration with Bitcoin Live, because we go way back. But what have you been up to, my friend?
Yeah, well, life is interesting. It's taken me in so many different directions. But most recently, I've been focusing a lot on an IT consulting business that I have, providing managed services to small medical offices in the Northeast. So I've been doing a lot of traveling. The project's been growing. It's been absolutely crazy. So that's what I've been up to.
Nice. And there's also some more news, of course, because we're gonna dive into that. But you're also sort of looking ahead and making perhaps a change in direction, and also maybe you can explain it yourself. Like, what
Sure.
lies ahead for you, and what should people expect?
Yeah. Well, hey, listen, as most of the viewers probably know, those who are watching that are familiar with me, I have been doing the crypto curator for a while. It all started back in 2017 and even before that, my former business, we curated news information for most of the offices and committees up on Capitol Hill, part of Congress, OST White House, and then some Fortune 500 companies. And as a result of doing that business, when I made an exit from that business, I began to think about what I wanted to do next. And so I started my IT consulting business. It was during that time that I came across Bitcoin, and this was back in 2011. As you can only imagine, like everybody else that came across Bitcoin early, no one took initial action. I mean, some of the folks were mining, but I wasn't a technical guy that was doing mining or anything like that. And so, as most people know too, I used to live on Twitter, what is now X. And I came across Trace Mayer, or is Max Kaiser, one of those guys, and they were talking about Bitcoin, and I started going down the rabbit hole in Bitcoin. Well, after doing that, I was like, wow, this is going to be something. And so I kept following it from 2011 to about that second, I think it was maybe the second bull run cycle that we had. And then I was like, wow, this is crazy. And there were a lot of newsletters that were out there at the time. Pump was doing his newsletter. There were some other newsletters out, but it didn't seem anyone was curating everything that was going on. And in 2017, everything was like Bitcoin, Litecoin, and Ethereum, right? And so I was able to curate the news. And so I started calling myself the crypto curator, published this newsletter, pushed it out every day, and started, doing that different formats. I was on Patreon at one point. I was doing it on Twitter. I was doing LinkedIn, all over the place. And as the industry began to grow, and as most of you know, the explosion of the ICO space, it just became too much to curate the news, right? So I started having to drop things that I was curating. Eventually, toward the end, I was only curating Bitcoin and the top 10 digital assets. And even recently, I've just mostly been focusing on Bitcoin. So, but I'm starting now to get to the point to where, I think this has run its course. 7 years of curating news. I think we got a lot of news curators out there. I think it's time to make a shift.
Yeah, and we're gonna touch upon all those things. But I'm also very curious about how did you experience your collaboration with us?
Yeah, so as you know, we've known each other. Wow, I think I came across Jan actually first, your brother, and was talking with him, and then I started communicating with you, and then you guys. And I'm not sure. I don't remember if you guys had Bitcoin Live when I first met you guys, or if you guys weren't doing Bitcoin Live.
I think we were, but we started really small in the crypto space,
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah,
everybody else. And when you start a YouTube channel, because we started with a YouTube channel, like
yes,
super low grade and very amateurist. The first year you basically get only your friends and family to follow you,
yep.
and then But so probably we sort of met I think in 2018, maybe 2019, something like
Yeah,
that.
it was early on, and so as a result of meeting you guys, then you guys were doing Bitcoin Live,
Yeah.
and then you approached me and said, "Hey, listen, we're gonna start doing shows on Bitcoin Live. Would you want to do a show on there?" And I was excited about it. And listen, the time that I did my shows, absolutely enjoyed it. Both Bitcoin is freedom and Bitcoin and politics, two areas that I really, really enjoy looking at. And we'll get into later about the politics side, but yeah, this is it was a fun time. I even had some cool guests on a couple times, which was a lot of fun. And so yeah, getting the information out there for people to be aware of that Bitcoin actually does lead to freedom, and that's this whole situation is a result of me being involved in Bitcoin. Had I not been involved in Bitcoin, there's no way on God's green earth I would have ever been in a position where I am now to basically retire. Right, I'm basically done. As number goes up this run, I'm definitely done. So it's like Bitcoin has given me the freedom, and I want that for everybody. So that's sort of why I did the show, is to help other people see the power of Bitcoin.
And this, like I said, this is a special show, so some of our other content creators will be dropping in during the show to say hi, and also thank you, of course, for all the hard work that you did on the channel. And I can totally sort of relate to what you're saying. And for the people who sort of might know us and go to our YouTube page, we have been banned both on YouTube and on Twitter before. That's sort of why we're still very low, and we had to start all over again. And I think that's another thing that sort of also bothers you, right? On Twitter and social media. I mean, you have never been banned because you're way too nice a person. And that's good for you, right? You're always positive, and that that's what we really appreciate about you, to keep us grounded and to focus on the positive and not only on the negative. But I think you also ran into some issues on socials that with engagement, and perhaps you also experienced shadow banning. I'm not sure, but can you tell us a little bit about that experience?
Yeah, I think due to some of my political views and political leanings, I think I probably said some things that probably were out of line. Didn't get me banned outright, but probably got me shadow banned. And because of my incessant tweeting that I did, it probably also got me banned because it probably was seen as spam. Because I literally 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days. I've actually had several people on Twitter told me before, like, dude, go take a break. It's like the holidays. What are you doing? And I'm like, yeah, I know, but I love it.
Yeah, but to be honest, the last year or so, your tweets were like, very a few, right? I mean, a few a day, right? Not annoying,
Yeah.
or not as annoying as we are, like. so that can be it, right?
Yeah, yeah. So I don't know. And there was a couple times I did go to that. I think it was a website or something you could use to see if you were shadow banned. And there was a couple times I was shadow banned. I went back and looked at the rules about shadow banning and what. And so I tried to adjust some of my activity on X to not get myself shadow banned, to dig myself out of that hole. And I think I sort of did that successfully. So yeah, never an outright ban, but probably shadow ban.
Yeah. By the way, for the people who don't know, that was 3D Changes Perspectives, Douglas.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, so we're trying to go and fit the people into the conversation as we go along.
Good.
Will be some fly work, but I think we can manage. So
Good.
for the people listening, if you want to join and you have the link, just feel free to jump in, and you can also respond or say something to Paul or whatever. I'll try to get you into the conversation. And also for the people watching, thank you for watching, and give our video. I'm saying it in Dutch. Our show a like or a retweet. Like I said, sometimes I shift back to Dutch. Actually,
Yeah.
I also have some cool news. Let's get out of the way. I actually did a photo shoot and an interview yesterday for a magazine in Dutch. So that's a bit of a shame for all the English listeners. Also, another little bit of a disappointment that will only be released in December. So I'll come back to you about that in November, December, around that time. I'm very proud of it. It was a really cool interview, very in depth. I hope it will sort of boost our profile a little bit in Holland. I also have to work on my LinkedIn because I haven't done that in ages and it's really poor. I don't really believe in LinkedIn, but who knows? So I have to give that an upgrade. Also got some other news. We're actually launching 3 new shows next week. I'll do a... I also have to work on my LinkedIn because I haven't done that in ages and it's really poor. I just turned off the sound with Matty because otherwise we get an echo. But that's Matty Sets, another content creator.
My guy. My guy. Yeah, man.
Yes, sir.
Hey, congratulations. You've done it. I heard you're retiring. You're moving on, and you are leaving a legacy, man. You're leaving a void. All these other people that are out there, all riding off your wake. You were a pioneer, a trendsetter, a person who always spoke truth, always brought facts, and always, like Nick said, you have such a great heart. Your heart for people, your heart for humanity, your heart for nature and creation, dude. You are a beautiful soul inside and out, and I will always love you and respect you wherever you go. I wish you just great things. I'm just here to just celebrate you today, man.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks, man. I appreciate that, man. Ditto to you too as well. No, it's been a lot of fun working with everybody in Bitcoin Live, especially you, Matty Sats. You're a rock star, man. So it's awesome having the opportunity to work alongside with you.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna sit here, have coffee, and hang with you. That's why I'm like, oh, it's not. So just keep going.
Yeah. We'll open up the conversation. I did have to sort of, prepare some questions because otherwise we would be sort of having that.
Right.
Hey, you disappeared. It's a magic trick.
The lights went off.
No problem. It's a live stream, so stuff like that happens. Some other people will also drop in if they can. Some surprise guests even. So we might have a bunch of people here at the end of the show. But I think you also have some opinion on socials, right, Matty? I think you also experienced sort of the same stuff.
Yeah, shadow ban, all that stuff. Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think Paul nailed it. Sometimes I think, early on, tweeting too much could have been, the algos back then. For lots of, look, I need to own that. I need to apologize to some folks out there. If it's you, I'm looking at you right now specifically, not you, Paul, but anybody you watching this later on. Maybe I said something that offended you. I'm sorry. I need to stop the shit posting. I know. So I'm repenting of that. I'm admitting my fault. So I have some culpability in it. You can't say that you don't, right? So Paul never shit posts, though. For the record, Paul never shit posts.
No,
I tried that.
Let's just make that clear. Paul's not a shit poster. Me, I have a history of that.
Actually, he corrects us, right? If we make it like a wrong step or something.
Yeah. Paul's always been the voice of truth. That's kind of what I said. He's always, even like, there's been times where I know I posted something and Paul would be like, hey man, well, blah, 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 blah. Did you think about this? But he always brought it in a really great, kind, loving, in a way that was like, oh, hey, you're wrong, but he doesn't like come down on you like that. And I think that's the way that like a lot of folks need to be. We need to take that as an example. How do we share information in a way that's like not being negative and not being a jerk or a dick about it?
Yeah, and also very nuanced, right? So Paul's always searching for the nuance in the conversation and also trying to be inclusive, right, for everybody to sort of join the conversation. Because when I sort of tweet out, it's sometimes a bit too emotional, I guess.
And Paul's always been a groundbreaker. He's been ahead of the curve. The shows that he did here on the network, Bitcoin and freedom and Bitcoin and politics. We see now, especially after what the Trump speech last night. Like, my gosh, dude, like. Paul was saying all this stuff like how many years, right? For 7 years, Paul, you said you've been doing it? 8 years?
Yep.
Yeah, you're rating on a full-time deal, but you've been in the space way a lot longer. But so we see the two big issues now. The theme of this election was basically the two shows that Paul was running on Bitcoin Live for the past years.
True, yeah, that's also why I try to convince him to keep going, right? I mean, I gave up, but I said, like, this is your moment, right? This is, Bitcoin and politics, and Bitcoin is freedom. Like, those are the two main themes right now that are.
I'm just concerned if Paul's getting out and kind of selling the top. What does that mean? Like, do I need to like? Maybe there's is the boat going down? It's the Titanic, and he's getting in. Like, oh my gosh, no, the band's still playing. Paul, come on.
That's right. Now, we got to be clear about something. There is, but Michael Saylor, never sell, Laura, never sell. Listen, Bitcoin is freedom because as long as you're holding on the Bitcoin, you're safe. That is the life raft to this crazy world that we're in. And as long as you're holding Bitcoin, I think you are free. But if you ever sell Bitcoin, game over.
True. And we're actually, I also prepared some stuff on politics, right? Because that was your show, that's your passion. You also work closely together with George of CapHillCrypto. I also invited him on the show, so you might show up.
Nice.
Some other people. But you have clear views on politics, and this is the year, right? I believe there won't be a bigger year in politics for quite a while. Right, this is sort of the build-up to this moment, with Bitcoin and crypto, but also with CBDCs. You got way colorful characters out there. Polarization has never been greater. The whole world watches what America is going to vote for. So can you sort of sketch the landscape in American politics and what you think about it and where you might see it go?
Sure. I was listening to OnRamp this morning, and their guest, and I'm blanking on his name. I might be able to get his name. But what he asked was really, really important because you can see what's happening in two different ways. It is tricky too because the way that it's going, it might seem one way when in reality it's another. And let me get to what I mean by that. Hold on, his name was Rich Kerr. So Rich Kerr, former guy that worked with, where was he working for? He was working for one of the RIs, Charles Schwab. This is a Charles Schwab guy, and he's now
not Klaus Schwab.
Charles Schwab. And he's talking about the RA community, the registered investment advisor community, getting into Bitcoin in a big way. And that was a great show. If you ever get a chance to watch the OnRamp interview, it was great. But he asked him a question. He says, this whole thing that's going on with Trump right now, is this a result of the crypto community sort of getting to him or him waking up to crypto, right? Is this an effort of the crypto market pushing Washington and pushing the regulators into crypto? Or is this a part of them recognizing that they need to make this shift? And I think it's the game theory that Satoshi had built in at the very beginning. We're seeing the remnants of that because Bitcoin is such that the longer it lives, the more attention it's going to pull in. And I think all the politicians, and we saw this with the Democratic Party, you can be against it until all of a sudden you recognize, wait a minute, everybody's for it. We need to shift. And we're watching Trump do that. His 4 years in office, he said none of this stuff. Now he's saying it. Was that a result of the crypto community going whispering in his ear at Mar-a-Lago? Probably so. Or was that him recognizing, if I want to get more votes, here is a rich community of people to get votes from. I'm going to go target them, invite them down to Mar-a-Lago, and then make this hot. And I don't know the true answer behind that, but we can definitely see the game theory being played out.
I think it's a little bit of both, Paul. I think it's both, probably,
And don't you think there's also like a third option that, he's feeling the hot breath of Kennedy down his neck and that he's sort of, cutting the grass in front of him or cutting, I don't know the English.
Yes, I love that. Planting the grass in front of him. I think that's exactly what he's doing. It's an old political term. Abe Lincoln used that, planting the grass.
Oh, really?
No, I don't know.
It's a Dutch saying. But
it's Sunday morning. I put some Baileys in here so I can join you folks.
So so give me the real Dutch. What's the Dutch saying?
Yeah, so if you do a literal translation, which you shouldn't do, is cutting the grass in front of somebody, and it sort of means that you're, you're taking the wind out of somebody's sails by, taking all the talking issues and in order sort of to make him less relevant. Because Kennedy is very pro Bitcoin and very pro crypto, right? So So is that not the reason that suddenly Trump is also pro Bitcoin and pro crypto in order sort of to get that vote?
Well, you saw Ryan Selkish bending his ear, so I'm sure if Mr. Masari's sitting there having a one-on-one with him, you can be pretty much sure he's getting orange pilled hardcore. And you've got guys like Vivek Ramaswamy there in the cabinet, or loose campaign cabinet, if you will. Obviously, very intelligent, very articulate, understands the value prop of Bitcoin, what that means. And then let's not slight this. I don't want to say anything. I think that his son Barron, he's 18. He's young. He's got his finger on a whole demographic and a whole generation. And he probably, it sounds like he does listen to his son to some extent. And, his son probably gets crypto as well. So it's going to be those generations that get it. And so I think, like you said, Paul, earlier, it kind of ties back to, it's a little bit of both. It's probably, yeah.
Yeah, it's also, and I'm sure that the crypto media will say this, and I would agree with it too. I think Vivek bent his ear a lot too as well. I think he saw Vivek's platform when it came to crypto, because again, remember Vivek was also at Bitcoin 2023 when RFK made his speech, but Vivek was a hard US dollar guy. He talked about Bitcoin a little bit, but he was all pro US dollar. And RFK was the only one who was really pro Bitcoin. And then all of a sudden, as this election has moved on, I think Trump is because he even said, I will pardon Ross Ulbricht, or I will commute his sentence day one, right? Okay, let's see if that were to actually happen. Because if it didn't, then again, it goes to show that he was all talk, no action.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who should be free, like Julian Assange and Ulbricht, yes. And actually in Holland we also have a terrible situation with Alex, right, the coder who got prison sentence for basically making some code. Right? Yeah. It's really insane. But I also know that you have a very passionate view about Kennedy. So can you and so do I. So sort of can you tell us a little bit about it? What you think about it?
I do. Listen, Kennedy came on the scenes. Initially, I was like, ooh, this guy's going to have a hard time. His voice is, I don't know if anybody's going to listen to this guy. But the more he talked and the more he began to talk about what he was for, the more I sort of tuned in. When he arrived at Bitcoin 2023, which I did not attend, I was absolutely blown away by his 6 points on Bitcoin in his presentation. He made both. I forgot which. I think it was I forgot the woman that spoke that was sort of talking about Bitcoin. Vivek talked about Bitcoin, and he talked about Bitcoin. He blew both of them out of the water when it came to it. And then the more he talks, and the more I see what his platform stands for, freedom in all aspects, small government, the whole 9 yards. I'm like, this is a guy that we really should get behind. But then I got completely dismayed when I watched this whole deal with Trump happen, because I'm like, if anybody should be going for RFK, it should be the crypto community, because he really espouses everything that they talked about. And he also made it a point that he would look into Ross Ulbricht's situation if he became president, and he would look to get him out of jail. So when I saw all of that, I was just, shocked to see the crypto media take this, and I call it bend the knee and kiss the ring, to Trump, because they should. Now we have a new organization, well, not a new organization, it's an organization I just became aware of. A guy reached out to me on LinkedIn named Zach. He works with Free and Equal. They are out there truly pushing to make sure they make this election free and equal, and that everybody gets a shot to run. And again, the crypto community is not, pushing this organization. They're pushing Trump, and I'm dismayed by that. Now I know they will say, well, it's because he can win. I don't buy that. Strategic I think RFK can win. Yeah.
And that brings us maybe to another question. Like, let's say Trump or Kennedy wins the next election. How much change would you see with either candidate in a positive or a negative way?
Yeah, I think you're going to see some, but you won't see a lot. And I would definitely love to get Matt's thoughts on this too. But I think you'll see some, not a lot, because here's what people fail to realize. As a presidential candidate, you can make 8,000 promises. Majority of those, you cannot do it by yourself. It takes Congress to get it done. So you can make it all sound good for sound bites, but what can you really get done unless you are a uniter and you can bring both parties to the table? We saw what Biden said. Biden said he's going to veto this SAP 121. He still hasn't done it, and I don't think he will, because he knows political suicide. The FIT 21, I guarantee he's going to approve that one. He's definitely going to sign that, and that's going to make it through both chambers, both the House and Senate, I believe. So, yeah, I think that the presidential candidate, if it's RFK or if it's Trump, I think on the RFK side, I think you'll see a lot of unity come. If it's Trump, I think you'll still see a lot more division, and that division will continue for another 4 years. I'd love to see what Matt thinks.
Yep. Let's hear it.
I agree with a lot of what you said there, Paul. I do think though that even you saw his remarks last night. I mean, it's going to be hard to beat that guy. It's going to be hard to beat that guy. Can it be done? I'm sure anything is possible, but man, and I think we have to look at like what is the best possible outcome for. I mean, I'm just going solely on a Bitcoin standard. Okay, I'm not talking about other political issues. Just as a single item. I mean, for me, as the line that he echoed last night was, if you self custody, I'm not going to take that right away from you. I'm like, amen, thank you. That should be like 2A. That's going to be like the Second Amendment. You can take my wallet from my cold dead hands. Okay, so
that's right.
And I'm for anybody who's whatever candidates for lesser government. And a lot of the talking points he made last night were obviously directed towards the Libertarian Party because I think he knows that he needs them. He needs them. Yeah. And whoever
they booed him a lot. I think that they.
Oh, I know they did. Oh, I know. Well, I watched the whole 34 minutes of it, brother. Before I got on this morning with you all, I was like, oh, hold on, let me get in bed. I had to get up and get dressed to do this because I was in bed watching that on the stream from Ryan Sell because I'm like, oh, look at this. But yeah, I mean. It's all a lot of the talk is great talk. Hey, Douglas is here. Welcome, man. But
right there.
I'll just finish really quick. I hope that it does bring change. I hope that it does. I don't know how fast that change comes and what does that look like. I think it's more of a slower progress because it's taken this long to even get us here, right? From 2017 to 2014, since we've all been here. It's been a slow grind, and I'm optimistic. I'm hopeful, but let's just continue to take it one day at a time, one step at a time, and move the ball down the field and just pick up first downs.
And I also want to say something because you did a really cool tweet in response to Mark Moss about sort of how Bitcoin might fit sort of the Fourth Amendment, the Fifth Amendment.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about that? Because that was really cool.
Well, I don't know. I was just looking at Mark's tweet, and I love following him. He's really smart and brilliant, obviously. But just thinking from a constitutional and kind of going back to Paul's expertise a little bit here on the political side is, what it's not really mentioned in the Constitution, but if you were going to look at, things within the Constitution where we have some framework and something that we can stand upon and say, wait, to be a Bitcoiner to self-custody, this is protected by the Constitution. And where would we find at least some legal grounds or some sort of, framework to stand on? So that's where I kind of took the idea and ran with it and then did a little research and kind of put that response together.
You want me to read it? Because you mentioned, because you said like the Fourth Amendment, this amendment protects citizens from unreasonable searches and seizures. The right to self-custody Bitcoin could be seen as part of a person's right to secure their private property, including digital assets against unwarranted government intrusion. You mentioned the Fifth Amendment. This amendment includes the protection against self-incrimination and ensures that no one is deprived of property without due process of law. Self-custody of Bitcoin could be argued to fall under property rights, meaning the government cannot arbitrarily seize Bitcoin without due process. The First Amendment, of course, while primarily known for protecting free speech, like, what Alex, I think, or people protecting Alex were also arguing, that coding is basically free speech. The First Amendment has also been interpreted to protect certain forms of symbolic speech, like coding, and the right to associate freely. Bitcoin as a means of transaction and expression of financial independence could be seen as an extension of these freedoms. The Ninth Amendment, this is, for me, sort of, I'm not that familiar with it, but this amendment states that the enumeration of certain rights in the Constitution does not mean that other rights are not retained by the people. This can be interpreted to mean that just because a right to self-custody Bitcoin isn't explicitly listed doesn't mean it isn't protected.
Right.
And the last one, and then I'm finished. 14th Amendment. This amendment includes the Equal Protection Clause and has been used to incorporate most of the Bill of Rights to apply at the state level through the doctrine of substantive due process. This could extend protections against state actions that would infringe on the right to self-custody Bitcoin. So that's a very interesting tweet, actually. And I'll also...
Well, I get lucky. I do a little research,
Yeah.
I follow Paul, and I just like take his stuff, and then I run it through ChatGPT, and I'm like, what did Paul say?
Nice.
Yeah, so somebody also says Federal Reserve confronted daily robbery on-chain as a solution. Government still owes people for 1933 forcible gold. Yeah, that's absolutely true. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Hey, 3D, what's up, man?
Can you hear us? Yeah, I think the connection of 3D is not that good. It keeps dropping out. You mentioned.
Don't call him 3D. I call him Douglas.
Yeah. Douglas from 3D.
My man Doug over there.
But here's another thing too that people have to realize. And again, I get Trump's stance is definitely going to move the needle, things like this. But even with Biden in office, I think there's still going to be things that's going to get through when it comes to crypto and how crypto is handled. Like, we keep making it seems like the president is the be all end all. And don't get me wrong, he can be, and it can be that way. But I also think the fight can keep going, because here's the thing: even if Trump vetoes a bill, if 2/3 of Congress, they can still override that veto, from what I understand, if I think that's right. So Congress still has some power, I think, right? 2/3 votes of Congress over.
Yeah, I think so. You're right. Yes.
Yeah. So the reality is, yes, we can have a president that doesn't align with our views as Bitcoiners, but I do believe that he's not the be all end all if we get Congress. Also, this is why we have 3 branches of government. And my fear is that if Trump gets back in, I think all 3 branches might be gone. But hopefully,
could you expand on that?
Yeah, well, I mean, with the Supreme Court, right? They already were saying this is why Supreme Court sort of took a pass on trying to determine if he had not, violated the law by the whole act that he did with January 6th and everything else.
Insurrection,
is
right?
that they were sort of like, sort of hands off, because if they gave him a pass, then that means he's now running the judicial branch. And then if he can get a ton of Republicans in there, especially the MAGA Republicans in Congress, and they have it, then all three branches of government are just under his control. He actually has control over all 3. That would be unheard of in all of our history. So I think that's dangerous precedent. And I think that possibly can happen. If he gets back in office, I think he will begin to co-opt both Congress and the judicial branch, which would be horrible.
Okay, I think any person who has that much power consolidated, you need good checks and balances. You need a party of a coalition. You need that to work. But I think also the majority of if that's what the majority of the people want, then their voices should be heard. But you do need a coalition to make things successful. The one thing I wanted to address, though, when we were talking Biden and Bitcoin, and dude, I know you saw it, Paul, because I know you are on it. So again, it's like magicians pulling rabbits out of hats. Yeah. Last week, Biden big fundraiser in Boston. Abigail from Abby Johnson from Fidelity helping raise over $800 million. And we know Fidelity, the volume they've been doing with the ETFs. She's a Bitcoin bull since 2015, mining Bitcoin. So I think it's just a matter of time until somebody in the Biden campaign, like, hey, Grandpa Joe, you got to do a TikTok with the crypto. You know what I mean? And if she's helping raise that much money, right. So I think that there's still room for him to pivot, because he's got to. I mean, Elizabeth Warren's getting decimated. So he's got to. It's actually kind of fun to watch everybody dunk on her. But
then I do want to add a little bit also. I didn't know that, but when they voted on the CBDC, it turns out that only 3 Democrats in the House voted against banning it from the 195. So, and even though that was pretty scary when I saw that statistics. And so within the Democratic Party, there's probably it has probably to do with UBI, and they have this idea that CBDCs are necessary for UBI or whatever, and probably a huge lobby from the CBDC group too. But that's really scary, right? And we all know that it's not just CBDCs, because this control grid goes much further than just CBDCs. It also has to do, sort of the interoperability and PayPal, and it's a whole it's a whole gamut of things, and also the shadow banning that we experience and talked about on social media, or the banning outright that we experience, right? This sort of control grid that they're rolling out, but CBDCs are are like the cherry on top, right? When if you put the cherry on top of this system, it will be, there will be nowhere else to run. So so that's scary, right? I mean, that's sort of what Democrats seem to like.
Yeah, but what I find interesting though is that, and what I would hope is that, and at least this is what I'm seeing, it seems like the crypto community is willing to go out and try and orange peel Republicans, libertarians, and everybody else. When it comes to Democrats, like, they don't want to have any conversation with them whatsoever. Now, I don't know if that's because the Democrats have truly shut them down, or if they just don't want to do it and they don't want to deal with Democrats, whatever. But there are Democrats. As a matter of fact, with the FIT21, there were 34 Democrats who came over and voted with Republicans. So there are a lot of Democrats in Congress that are willing to understand what crypto is, what Bitcoin is, and to try and advocate for it. But when it comes to some of this bills, people have to realize Congress, they stuff all this crap in these bills. And when people vote no against the bill, it makes it sound like, oh, they were against that issue, when that's not the case at all. But you never really hear that in the media, which, again, I think this is the whole dog and pony show with politics that drives me crazy. It's like there's more reasons why someone would vote no on a bill, and it's not directly hitting at what the point is. So it's tricky.
Yeah, okay, I understand what you're saying. Basically, you say those bills have a lot of earmarks for other stuff.
A lot of pork.
Yeah,
a lot of pork in those bills.
Yeah. That's true. And then, the other party will frame it like, they were against it while they were actually...
you were against feeding the babies. Oh my gosh, you're evil. Well, no, because there was all this other part in here where they were going to like do all the bad stuff and you didn't read that part.
Right. And that's on both sides.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I know. It's political football. Political gamesmanship, I believe, is how you've referred to it in past articles, Paul.
Yeah.
So how do you get around that, right? The pork in those bills, right? And usually also those bills are huge, like 500 pages or 10,000. I don't know. They're huge and very hard to read through. So nobody actually reads those bills. And you got those lobby groups who, basically make those bills for them to pass. So how do you get around that?
Yeah, I think what we're seeing happen in Congress right now is a result of the crypto lobbying. And I think crypto has figured it out. And the lobbying firms that are up on Capitol Hill is what actually made FIT21 and SAB 121 possible, is that we don't see the effort and the work that those groups have put in and all the money that they raised and yada, yada. But I think crypto's growing up and crypto's figuring out they got to play the political game. Now, I know that some people in crypto are like, why do we need government involved in crypto in the first place? I agree with you. I wish that they weren't. But guess what? Since they are, we've got to play their game. And crypto lobbyists are playing the game, and they're winning. I think that's what's happening.
Yeah, that's another thing that we want to talk about, because FiboSwanny is a good friend of all of us. He's an amazing technical analyst. And if you are not following him on Twitter or, wherever, you're missing out on great information. He's working with TX West Capital, who's also amazing. So enough of plugging them. But he also he makes the point, right? He's an anarchist from his background, from his political liking. And he always makes the point, like, the ETFs, were basically something really bad for Bitcoin, but the number goes up is nice, but it's not what it should be about. It's about the revolution, it's about freedom, and the regulation and getting politics or the House and the Senate involved in sort of regulating Bitcoin and crypto. These are all the things that we don't want to do. So why the hell are we doing it? Aren't we sort of getting, are we not messing up the revolution? What is your take on that?
Yeah, a little bit. You can look at it that way. Michael Saylor had a great video that I posted in Bitcoin Live on Telegram, and I think people should watch that. And it was sort of new to me, but listening to him explain what peer-to-peer meant in the white paper. And again, I think it's up for debate as to what does it mean peer-to-peer. Did he mean individual to individual? A lot of people would say, yes, he meant individual to individual. Or did it mean, bank to bank? Or did it mean, and I'm going to mess up how Michael Saylor explained it, but I would encourage people to watch that video when he was explaining what does peer-to-peer mean when it comes to electronic cash. But the reality is that I think that Bitcoiners have tried to make this out to be, it's sort of like religion, if you ask me, and people probably would kill me for saying this. And guys, listen, I'm a Christian, so let me say that. But it's just like the Bible. When you look at the Bible, everyone tries to make it seem like it's ever encompassing all. Guys, that's a history book documenting history is what it was. But there are some people that would make it like it's forever and always. And I get it is, but the reality is that we're making this out to be more than what it probably was meant to be. If you go back to the original authors who penned those letters, I don't think they ever knew this was going to be consolidated into a book called the Bible. They just didn't. And so when you look at the Bitcoin white paper, I think Bitcoiners are making the white paper say something that it didn't say. This whole HODL was never mentioned in the Bitcoin white paper, right? Go look. Go look for a HODL.
The Holy Spirit's working, Paul. I don't know.
It is Sunday.
It is the Lord's day.
It is the Lord's day. So the reality is I think that we are making Bitcoin be something that it probably wasn't necessarily meant to be. And so it's tricky from that aspect. That's what I look at. And so anarchists, is Bitcoin supposed to be a big FU to the government and we don't want to deal with the government? I don't know. I mean, I
think it's a subjective thing, Paul. I think Bitcoin, the beauty of Bitcoin is it allows you to almost kind of impose your own, what you want out of it, because it is open source. It is pervasive. It is what it is. And that's the beauty of it. And that's where I think the problem also kind of comes into it. So somebody from an anarchist point of view can impose like, this is what Bitcoin's supposed to mean and be. And then somebody who has more of a libertarian point of view, like, no, this is what it's supposed to mean. And you know what? We're all touching the elephant in the dark. You know what I mean? We all got a different piece of the elephant. So
good analogy.
Thank you. I get lucky.
And would you also agree that, because of, the stakes are really high, we have to get this right. And this, if we don't get this election right, it will take another 4 years before we have another one, if at all. That's my opinion. But So you could argue, even though you're an anarchist or whatever, that you might have an obligation to actually get involved in politics this time because of the stakes are so high, right? Because politics does have a huge influence on society, whether we like it or not, right? Even if you're an anarchist, you live surrounded with people who might not be anarchists, right? So, and you live in a system that isn't anarchist. Unless I don't know where Fibo lives, but I imagine that he lives in the city. So, that's an issue right there, right? If you let people decide stuff for you, and you don't agree with their decisions, then you run the risk that they ruin this thing for good, right? That's basically what he's actually arguing, that they're ruining it. So
I don't think I don't think they're ruined. I think Bitcoin is built in Satoshi, God bless him, and the group that did this. I think that they really thought this. It's like the Constitution, right? It's well thought out. It was well planned and well implemented, such that it really can withstand the test of time. And even I know a lot of people thought, and I was one of the people that probably said it back in the day, if Trump ever gets elected, the world's coming to an end, right? If Biden ever gets elected, the world's coming to an end. Guys, listen, I don't care who's in that office. Our Constitution, our government is built such that it can withstand these attacks. Bitcoin withstood the attacks from the big blockers. Bitcoin will withstand the attacks of Mt. Gox. Bitcoin will withstand everything that happens. Again, that conversation on OnRamp, they were talking about it. He was saying, will the music ever stop? No, it doesn't stop, but it does slow down, right? The music will slow down if rather Biden stays in office or rather Trump's elected. I honestly believe that. I think the music will slow down. We're going to have complications with either one of these guys. We need someone else in office besides these two crazy parties. We need to break this up and stop the nonsense and get back to unity, which I don't think is going to happen with either side. If Biden wins, civil war. Trump wins, civil war. It's just no way around it, right? But even that being said, I still think America is still going to continue to progress. We will look back on these days as dark times, but it will not stop the music. I don't think it's possible.
Yeah, and just to make it clear, like I really sympathize with anarchy, right? I when I was younger, I had a completely different view on politics because I grew up in Europe, and in Europe, you're basically brainwashed into socialism. So it took a while for me to read Friedrich Hayek and Thomas Sowell. I read at some point after the GFC, the Great Financial Crisis in 2007, 2008, I started reading 2 books in a few months, and it was The Road to Serfdom and Conflict of Visions, and then my whole world view changed after that, and then I became a gold bug at first, and later a Bitcoiner or Bitcoin centrist. So I totally sort of sympathize with anarchists, and I think also anarchy has a very bad name. But I think when you really look at it in practice, if people are voluntary anarchists instead of forced into it when society breaks down, because those two things are very different. Because we associate as anarchy with society breaking down, and then you basically have people who are not anarchists behaving like anarchists, and those are really bad. But if you're voluntary anarchists, like people like Fibo, then it could actually work very well, I think, because I think people actually don't really need that much politics in their lives, right?
Yeah, I agree. Limited government is my viewpoint. Paul, speaking back to government, and you've covered this topic extensively. One thing that we probably haven't had a chance to use, I know that in our conversations and dialogue, at what point along this timeline in the blockchain process with Bitcoin specifically, does it become an issue of national security, and that we see the U.S. government going, we are going to step in and start actually mining Bitcoin? It becomes where maybe they might even we saw what happened in 33 with the gold. Maybe I'm just saying I fear for Marathon or Quantum Expeditions. Could the government come in and be like, oh, guess what? We're now taking over all of the Bitcoin mining, or we're making it very hard and very exclusive so that we control 90% of it. And if you want to get access to the other 10%, you have to jump through these regulatory hoops. And they, where I'm going with this. So how far? Because I think this is something that we're looking at. Unfortunately, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, just like I said before, I think crypto lobbyists are maturing. They're growing up and they're getting built properly. And again, that's being seen by what happened with FIT21 and SAB 121. SAB 121 was where the regulators tried to come out and said that.
Oh, I think we lost Paul there. Oh, your sound is gone, Paul.
Yeah, we lost the audio.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to pull it up, by the way. I was trying to find it, but I found it here. That's
yeah, but to his point, they are growing up. They're getting smarter, which is good. We need that to happen.
Yeah, but there are of course a lot.
He's back. Let's see.
We can't hear you yet, Paul. Maybe otherwise you can maybe drop out and sign back in. Sometimes that helps. I also see your connection is a little bit low. So not yet. No sound.
Nope, not yet. Still can't. Okay. Yeah.
I think he's found it.
That's weird how stuff just goes out like that. Where everything's going along and then oh, the internet. What happened?
Yeah. We have a lot of experience with that on Bitcoin Live. We're pros.
Oh, it wouldn't be a live stream. There we go. Let's see. Do we got him back now, Paul?
No sound yet.
Nope, still no audio. But you know what? If I was really good at lip reading, I would say, be smart, be safe, stack sats hodl. Isn't that what he just said? I think that's what he said. I was reading his lips.
That's I think also follow Matty says. Yeah. We don't know what's wrong with the sound. Man. It was working fine, and then suddenly it dropped away. So as soon as we hear you,
they want to silence Paul. They want to silence him. That's the thing. See?
Yeah, he was saying something very important. Something revolutionary.
He was about to drop the fire alpha, and then the government just pulled the plug on him. So take that, my libertarian friend.
I should have mentioned. I should have mentioned anarchism, right? That's where it went wrong.
Yeah, see, you start talking the anarchy, and they're listening, and they pull the plug, and they're like, "You're done, Bitcoin Live."
So what is your take, Matty, on your own question? Like, what is your answer, or how do you view it?
To what? I'm sorry, the question.
With the mining, the Bitcoin mining.
I certainly see it going that way. I think it's a matter of time until the U.S. government nationalizes Bitcoin mining. There was a tweet earlier, and I forget who it was, but it was somebody smarter than me. Are we back?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
That's what happens. That happens when your AirPods are not charged up completely.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The AirPods.
There goes the conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
AirPods.
So what Maddie said is just like I was saying, the crypto lobbyists, FIT21, SAB 121. SAB is where the banks where the regulators telling the banks you have to hold the same amount of money to the crypto that you hold. Well, they can't do that, right? And so what I think ultimately will happen, the same thing, is that I think that the lobbyists are going to fight against anytime the government comes out and say they want to co-opt the miners. Like if they want to come out and say, okay, all miners now have to come to us as the government. As a matter of fact, we saw that happen though, Maddie. Remember when they told the miners that they want them to give all this reporting and stuff, and all the miners said, no way, we're not giving you that information. The miners won on that one. They didn't get the information. So I think that our systems are built such that, and the crypto lobbyists are getting stronger, that if the government wanted to come and do something idiotic like that,
like they did in Venezuela last week, you mean?
Yes, exactly.
Like they did last week in Venezuela. That shit happens, dude.
But that's not our government. Listen, our system.
I know.
Built, yeah, that won't happen. It can happen other places. It's not happening here.
There was a tweet, I forget who it was. It was a smarter guy than me that put it out, and it was just recently talking about how data centers eventually in the future are going to be like, surrounded by barbed wire and guarded by the U.S. military and whatnot. I forget who it was, but I think that's kind of the same idea and mentality where I see Bitcoin mining going on a national level, that it becomes an issue of national security at some point.
Yeah, I'm actually trying to find that one, Matty, the one that you just mentioned, because that was also in an interview with the Wolf of Wall Street.
Okay. Yeah.
Who got him on? But it's, I think, a few weeks back. So I'm sort of scrolling through it right now. But that same guy sort of warned that the centralization of mining is also an issue because once. Because
that was kind of an issue back in the day when we thought all that was centralized in China, right?
Yeah.
And so that's why. Go ahead.
No, what I was saying is, but that again goes to show us that even if we think that there's centralization, it's going to get broken up. Bitcoin always survived all these things. We thought, oh my goodness, they're kicking all the miners out of China. Or, oh, what's going to happen to the mining industry? It migrates. If it starts here, they migrate. Same thing with blockchain splits. If something will split off, all of their Bitcoin's built such that I think it's battle tested.
It's true.
Take it down. It's just not.
Like Max Kaiser said, attack us, bitch.
Yeah, that's also
words for Max.
That's also my take, and then, but it's also, of course, an argument to get involved in politics in order to sort of help those people who are actually trying to keep it decentralized. Yeah, I can't find it. It should be somewhere on this channel, but he's making too much content. Stop making too much content.
Yes, exactly. But again, this is why more people need to understand that Bitcoin is freedom, and if they do understand, I'm telling people this today, and again, even though I might not be doing the crypto curator or doing all this stuff, I am still constantly trying to educate people on what Bitcoin is. And even today, I tell them, you might think $69,000, $70,000 is high for a Bitcoin. Wait till Bitcoin gets to 250,000. You'll look back and say, oh, I wish I would have bought it at 70, right? It's like everyone thinks they're late. Michael Saylor says, I'll always buy the top because the top never comes. People said it was the top at 30. People said it was the top at 70. People will say it's the top at 250, and the top will still go. So no matter where you're buying Bitcoin, putting your resources into Bitcoin will give you freedom at some point. It might not be tomorrow. It might be 5 years from now. It might be 10 years from now. But if you remain steadfast on Bitcoin, I promise you can have freedom.
Absolutely. Amen, man. That's the gospel right there, Satoshi. Yeah. and you've been a disciple and you've preached it well, brother.
Thanks,
hey, since you are transitioning and pivoting into a different, I don't know, career, you're retiring. Can you? I might have missed a little bit. Maybe you could, share with us and folks who join later, what it is that you're going to be doing and what you're going to be focused on. If I don't mean to like cut the grass in front of you, Nick.
No. Go ahead.
That's comedy. See, I brought it around. I watched that Tom Brady roast. And
yes, you did. Yeah, so I mean, it's actually fluid at this point. My IT consulting stuff is still going well. So as I was telling him, I provide IT consulting, sort of a managed service provider for small medical offices in the Northeast, and I've been doing that for quite some time, even while I was doing the Bitcoin stuff. But things are starting to change. I actually thought I was in the process of heading to the Northeast again, but some things have probably just recently changed that might be changing. So what I tell people, and if you look at my LinkedIn, I say semi-retired Bitcoiner, right? And technically that's what it is, but I might shift into full retirement. As I was telling him, with the news curation stuff I do, at some point you get to the point where you're starting like, okay, am I really adding much value? And as I told them, for the people that have tuned in to the Crypto Curator back from 2017 up to today, I am highly appreciative of that. Actually shocked that I had so many people that was willing to read what I read, watched what I watched, and listened to what I listened to. And in some form, I still might do a little bit of that, but it might not even be under the Crypto Curator moniker. I might do it in a different fashion and format. I'm definitely going to lean more into the personal development side. I do have a newsletter that I write on LinkedIn called The Game of Life. And so I'll still be continuing some of that. Maybe I'll rope it all under that moniker and do it under The Game of Life and still talk about Bitcoin. So I don't know. It's fluid. Things are moving right now, and I'm not sure exactly where it's going.
All right. Game of Life.
Yeah, yes, and that was also a little bit what you did with Bitcoin is Freedom, right? To combine sort of the Bitcoin gospel with self-improvement, how to turn around your life, right? Because that's a big passion of you. I think you're helping a lot of people also in reality, like in real life, like not just talking the talk, but also walking the walk, which, many people can learn from. So, maybe we can touch upon that a little bit. Like what kind of issues do you see in society? What are stuff that people run into that you see around you that where you might give them some guidance or help, or, that you might want to highlight?
Sure. Yeah. Someone in the chat actually said it. Sogol, I guess the first part I can't pronounce it, but said real education only solution in my opinion. And that really is the truth. Listen, I'm not a college educated person, right? But I am life educated. I went into the military. The military taught me a lot. I learned a lot while I was in the military. And it sounds, cliche, but reading is fundamental. The more you read, the more you're exposed to, the more you're going to know, and it'll help you in life. And so 7 Habits of Highly Effective People was a great book that I read early in my military journey and had done a lot for me. I got an opportunity to facilitate that book for a course through one of the agencies I worked for. And it's something that's helped me out in life. Now, I didn't come from abject poverty, but I did come from a very low income family, and we struggled in the early days. When I got into the military, I wanted to study economics, and I took a macroeconomic course. And that helped me out a little bit, but the more I went through life, the more I've learned, and I've tried to apply what I've learned. And when I came across Bitcoin, of course, that was the ultimate thing to learn and has put me in the position it has today. But that's what I'm trying to get. Go ahead.
This book?
7 Habits. No, 7
Habits.
7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And this is what I try to get a lot of even Bitcoiners to understand. One, we live in society, rather wherever you want to call your society. And some people like to think the world's their society, and it's not. Around you is your society, your immediate circle of friends, families, associates, those types of things. Because as much as I care for and can sympathize and empathize with the people that's over in Ukraine and the war that's going on there, I'm not in that conflict directly. But within my own circle of people that I'm around, I need to try to be very interdependent with those people. And that's what the book tries to get you to. It says there's 3 levels. We all start out dependent. When you're a kid, you're dependent on your parents. Hopefully some people migrate out of that and they become independent. And that's the second level. And that means that they don't need their parents to take care of them. And then from that level, you're going to get into the workforce, schools, things like that. You need to be interdependent, which means you can work with a group of people, and the skills that the habits hopefully can give you, you will then be able to be a effective person in society. Bitcoin is what helps people do that, I believe. Maslow's hierarchy says what we have to have: safety, security, food, shelter, right? Those are the basic needs that you need. If you can get those met, and Nick, I'm telling you, most people don't have those needs met in the world. But Bitcoin can help provide that. As Maddie said earlier, you were talking about something about the United States. I wish the United States would get into mining. I wish the United States would take all the Bitcoin they have and hold on to it for dear life, because that very well might erase all the debt we have if they were to hold on to all that Bitcoin for the future, right? Because Bitcoin makes $2 million and they're holding on to that Bitcoin. That very well might eclipse our debt one day, right?
No,
how many
look
Bitcoin
at
do they have?
Look at how it turned around El Salvador, right? From a
Yes.
basket case, like one of the worst places on earth, right? I think it was in the bottom 20, maybe bottom 10. I'm not sure. It was ruled by gangs basically, and now it is attracting brain power from all over the world and building giant cities and mining.
They've got a volcano, man.
Yeah.
They've got a volcano. There was an article, I think, again, it might have been Mark who put this out, Mark Moss, that smaller nations, specifically around the Pacific Rim, where they have these, the geothermal, this is now, hey, guess what? You're now a player. You have a commodity that's very valuable. All of a sudden, you're not some small little Thailand island nation anymore. Oh, guess what, friend? You can mine Bitcoin.
Yeah, and also what Gerald said, right? And we also said that on Bitcoin Live.
Gerald? Oh, yeah, that guy. I know that guy.
The one you do the show with.
That guy.
Yeah. So he basically argued that Bitcoin eats waste, right? It turns waste into something valuable.
Well, we just saw what's going on with Mara in Kenya.
Yeah,
that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and correction to my statement, as much as I was really happy, it's not even close, right? Even if the United States held all their Bitcoin, they won't put a dent in the debt. So that's a number that will never get paid off ever. So sorry.
Yeah. No, but the system is sort of running down anyway, and all the players know that and taking advantage of it.
And I think we posted on the Bitcoin Live Network a couple of weeks ago. There's other African nations that are experiencing, I think it was Tanzania, however you want to say it, the same thing, where they actually were having to shut down some of the dams. Like, oh, we got too much power. Oh my gosh, what are we gonna like? Hook up some ASICs, guys. Let's go.
Yeah. So it would be interesting, but again, I think that, and this is another thing when it comes to Bitcoin being freedom, is that I think Bitcoin makes you take responsibility for yourself, right? And what I mean by that is, if we preach self-custody and people really get what self-custody means, that means I got to be responsible enough to hold my own money. And going through that process will make you responsible in other ways, because you'll start realizing that if I don't do this properly, my money's gone.
Yeah, so and that sort of ties into another topic that I wanted to discuss with you, because one of the I think it's okay to say so, but one of the reasons that you also wanted to sort of drop out is also to limit your attack vectors, right?
Yes.
And we're all in Bitcoin, and so we try to have internet hygiene, or what I think Douglas has a nice word for that. I forgot what it was. Yeah. Well, that's another nice word. But so. Are you also talking about that, right? Sort of to make people aware of these attack vectors as you become sort of trying to become a self-sovereign individual and taking responsibility for keeping your money safe, in this case your Bitcoin, and what is your take on attack vectors? Are they increasing, or what do we have to worry about, and how do you see that?
Yeah, they are. As I mentioned before, I too, like AA, right? I too am an alcoholic. I too was one of the people that played around with the crap like Celsius, BlockFi, Voyager, and got burned incredibly bad by it. You play with that stuff, you get hurt really bad. Now, as a result of all that happened with those, not only the fact that they went out of business, bankrupt, and lost everybody's Bitcoin, and Ethereum and whatever else you had, whatever crap you had, they have been hacked, which means that now all the bad actors know all the people's information who had money on those platforms, and now they know who to go attack. Tons of spam calls, tons of phishing emails, tons of text messages. We're getting hammered by bad actors that got a hold of that information that was out on the dark web, that was out there for anybody to see. Addresses, phone numbers, social security numbers. I mean, everything was compromised. So by being on these social media platforms, they know who you are and they come at you. I got people dropping my DMs on Twitter all the time, people dropping my DMs on LinkedIn. All of these social platforms exposes you to more and more bad actors coming after you in ways that you might not necessarily think. You might think, though, this is somebody that's trying to reach out to me to do this opportunity with Bitcoin to speak somewhere. And then you click on the link that they gave you to find out that, guess what, you've compromised yourself. You just don't know anymore. And with AI and all this other stuff, they can just hammer you constantly. So I told people this on Twitter. I had about almost 30,000 people, and I started going through my Twitter followers, and I found out a lot of them were inactive. They had left Twitter. A lot of them were bots, scams. And the one that got me the most was always the picture of the Asian chick with the picture with her back to the camera. I'm like, guys, what is this? Can't you get rid of this crap? And so I just got tired of fighting, tired of messing with this stuff. And I said, okay, it's time for me to cut it. It's time for me to go.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, but the most of these attack vectors that you just mentioned are sort of within crypto?
No, they're outside of crypto. I mean, my emails, the ones that they had, and now I'm in the process of shutting down my email. I'm shutting down Gmail account that I had. My Proton mail and things like that, I might still keep up, but even some of those, as a matter of fact, one of them I'm going to shut down because it was tied to one of those platforms. So I'm getting rid of any of those, considering changing the phone number that I had. Of course, one of the phone numbers I had was a Google Voice, so I'm not worried about them, because here's what most people don't understand about Google Voice, is that they can't do a SIM swap on Google Voice. You just can't. And you can't get to a Google Voice number unless it's actually your Google Voice. So for that reason, I might wind up keeping that, but I might not. I might wind up shifting that too. But I'm trying to sort of wipe and clean all the old contact information accounts off that were associated with those and start fresh. And so that's what I'm in the process of doing.
Yeah, and I also recommend everybody to watch 3D Change Perspectives, because, you know, his podcast is all about security, privacy.
Douglas is super savvy on that, man.
Yeah. So if you want to stay in the loop on that, you know, follow him. He also did one on Telegram and iCloud, and what was the other one? Signal recently, you know, and everything that's wrong with that. So, you know, stay in the loop. But I also noticed that I forgot which company it was, because I was sort of looking at it while you were talking. But some big company recently lost, you know, a ton of biometric information on its customers. I forgot which company it was, but it was a big one. So, and of course, as the geopolitical situation becomes more and more tense, you got these warnings out there from, I think recently the IMF warned for it, but, you know, the World Economic Forum warned for it. Many big institutions warned for it, or, you know, told us what they're going to do. There will be sort of a big hack sort of down the line, most likely, you know, as things escalate. So how can people protect against something like that?
Yeah, again, I think we have to be very vigilant on almost everything. I've told people now, as a matter of fact, I wouldn't mind, I can give you my number. But if most people call me, you will get a recording that says this: due to spam and scam calls, I stopped answering my phone. If you would like to contact me, text me or leave me a message. I can't tell you how many phone calls I get, and I get neither a text nor do I get a voicemail. Those numbers get immediately blocked and deleted out of my phone. People don't understand. I can't tell you, in the crypto publications, so many articles are written by old people who got called by their bank to tell them that their account had been compromised and that they need to move their money. And they do it. 60,000, hundreds of thousands of dollars are gone. And now banks are starting to tell customers, sorry, we're not going to give you money back because you were stupid enough to go fall for that. And it's sad, but it's true. people are answering. And I asked my buddy, what's going on when they call you and they don't say anything and they just hang up? He says, all they're doing is verifying that it's a good number. So when you answer the phone, they go, aha, got a good one. Now they can sell that phone number. With a voicemail, they probably still can do the same. So technically, you probably shouldn't even have a voicemail on it. That way they wouldn't know if it's a real number or not. But the reality is that we're constantly getting attacked. The only way for you to protect yourself is you just got to be smarter than them and not fall for anything. It's tough, man. I mean, there's no quick answer. It's tough. Oh, I lost your audio.
Oh, now we lost Nick. Now we can't hear Nick.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't just me.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, that was my own fault. I muted myself. Sometimes when I'm sort of browsing and trying to get all the links, I turn my sound off, and then
I mute myself too. I need to mute myself more.
But how likely do you think like that there will be a big hack? Because you're into IT also.
Yeah.
How
I don't know if it's going to be a big hack. No, I mean, we're getting hacked. I mean, they're a big organization getting hacked daily. So listen, most of our information is out there. That's why these companies come across. There was one that was being pushed really hard when we had the Celsius thing. And a couple of Celsius influencers were pushing this company. I tried them out. I did a trial run. But then I got thinking to myself, I'm like, okay, what happens if you guys get hacked? Because they were connecting to my bank account. They were connecting to they had connections to everything. And I was like, no, take me out of the system. I'm not playing this game. This is dumb. They're going to get attacked too.
Welcome, Sid. This is another person from Bitcoin Live. I'm not sure if his sound is working because... and I'm not sure how long he was there before I saw him. So he's I think he's getting some
might be gone
or something. Yeah. So so that's kind of scary, of course. And we live in a scary world.
Hey. No.
There you go.
Got some echo, Sid, on your end.
I think he's getting some.
Yeah, just give me a second. Hey, can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's better.
Yay.
Hey, man. Just give me a second. I had lit a cigarette. Now I'm smoking it down. I'll be back in 5 minutes because I've been waiting for like 15 minutes to join.
Okay.
Is it a cigarette? Okay.
So another aspect of this too, and I've told people this, is that, and again, there's probably all kinds of views on this, but I believe that we are somewhat living in the Matrix, and not like most people think. Like in the Matrix, they were calling humans what? Copper tops, right? Because they were saying that the humans were the energy for the Matrix. I believe that's happening in the way of AI. Listen, the only way AI functions is that it has to use us as ways to learn. And we're feeding AI with all the data we leave out there on these platforms, all the data we feed it, all the content we create. All of this is being fed into, quote unquote, the Matrix, the AI, and that is what's going to eventually take over. And again, I'm OCD, right? I clean everything up. Like I said, for me to get rid of X was no problem. A lot of people would have freaked out like, dude, you got 20,000 followers. Why would you shut that down? All your tweets, all your data. I don't care about that data. It's old anyway. I never went and looked at it anyway. The only purpose for all that data sitting out there is for AI to chew on constantly. Same thing for Google. I delete all my text messages. Once I've read them, I delete them. Most people's phones are filled up with text messages, I guarantee, and they buy bigger and bigger iPhones because they're filled with all this data that they'll never look at, right? Who goes back and looks at a text from 2014? No one. Delete it. You do not.
That guy.
You do not.
That guy right there.
I do.
Why would you do that?
I use my search function, in my WhatsApp. Yeah. It's sort of like my backup in case I said something important and then I want to retrieve it or something.
Dude, Douglas says he's got a text log of over 500,000 messages. Dude, Douglas.
It's too much.
But you're right. They're feeding the AI, and I forgot which podcast it was because I do try to follow AI. I'm not a technical expert in any sense of the term, but I'm curious about that. And somebody recently said that they need to have a better way of sorting all that information because there's a lot of crappy information out there that's training AI, and they need to sort of qualify the information or so that AI can learn better. So they have like tons of information everywhere from us, but I guess they need to have a better way of sorting through it for the AI to learn from it, right?
Yeah. Don't trust AI. Did you see what Google AI is doing on Google search?
Nope.
Like
Oh yeah,
giving
it's awful.
it's awful. Like I'll send you guys screenshots. I've took some screenshots. Like they are recommending to kill people, literally.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty bad. You can send it to my in my DM. I'll pop it
Yeah.
out.
That's
Yeah.
horrible.
Yeah, but also the problem with AI is it has to answer. So whatever the answer the AI find online, they just make it up and say give it to the users. They cannot
Yeah.
say right now that we don't know. Sorry, like search engines, when you search something and there is no result, it tells you that there is no result out there. But AI have to give you the answer. So that's the problem with the AI.
And I also have a question, and nobody I think has the answer, to be honest. But so I follow AI, and I think I know Sid's answer, but I recently saw an interview with Geoffrey Hinton, and Geoffrey Hinton is sort of like the godfather of AI. At least that's how they call him. He was early on, but there's a lot of these foundational builders of AI that are coming on many different shows and sort of warning people that AGI might be sort of imminent. But on the other side of that argument, I also know a lot of people, very smart people like Graham de Penrose and many others, who basically say, no, AI is just garbage in, garbage out. It doesn't understand what it's doing. It's just like an elaborate text filter. But Geoffrey Hinton would say, like, in order to sort of guess the next word in a sentence out of the million gazillion options there are, AI actually needs to understand the sentence in order to guess it. And what's the difference between us guessing the right word in a sentence and AI doing the same thing, right? Because you could also say that we are also guessing the next word in the sentence. So what is your take on AI, AGI, and how where are we and how dangerous is it?
Yeah, again, when it comes to the danger of it, I think that comes down to the end result of how a person uses. Like if I'm crazy enough to put something in Chat GPT and then take that as true fact and run off and do something with it, I think that's where the danger is. We as people still have the ability to make choices about how we leverage AI. And I think that's where we have to go. Now, if we're just going to let AI rampant to do something, rather that be drive a car for us, or whether that be opening doors or securing our valuables or whatever, again, it depends on how we're allowing the application and if we believe it. Now, in media, that's where I think the danger is. And that's another reason why I'm getting off of social media, is because what I've started to understand is that a lot of it is nothing more than propaganda. And the more we listen to, whether it's X or YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, it's mostly all propaganda trying to shape our view on things. And I think we're being heavily influenced by these platforms. And then we will believe things and we will run with those things without doing our research. And that's where we start having problems.
And I love that this show is a big piece of propaganda right now. I love being part of this propaganda team. You guys are part of the best propaganda team I've ever been a part of.
Well, the
biggest psyop I've ever worked on.
Yeah, that's right.
You get. I'm not.
Well, you're right, though, Paul. You're absolutely you're right.
If you guys are familiar with Edward Bernays, right? He was like the American cousin of Freud, who moved to America, and he did sort of like groundbreaking work. He was like the originator of PR, public relations, and he also made the point like that propaganda isn't bad, right? It's like propagating information. It's I think the term comes from the Catholic Church, who sort of used it. But if you sort of propagate right information in the right way, there's nothing wrong with propaganda in itself, right? But we associate propaganda with lies because you can also propagate lies, right? And then it's very dangerous. And so I think that's an important distinction right there. You could say that like schools and universities are propaganda machines in that sense, right? Because they're learning us something and they're propagating memes or information, and we're trusting them to propagate the right things to our children. But basically they're like, in a technical sense, they're propagation machines.
Yeah, but the school thing is like that's a lie they are propagating. They are not telling the
Can you expand on that?
Look, start from history. They teach what the victors told us, not the actual history. If you go to any school class and in any country, they tell their version of the history. I have studied in 3 countries basically, and in all three countries they were telling what they believe what is true, not what actually true. And
Mm.
then it goes to the science too, right? Science is like used to be a tool where you find out the truth. Now science have become the religion. If you guys haven't seen the Terrence Howard podcast of Joe Rogan,
Yes, I
that,
did.
yeah, the way he explained things, most of the thing I didn't understand, but what I learned from it is that science is a box scientists have created and you have to stick into that like a religion. And when you and before this podcast, Joe Rogan had one more with uh it was a debate between archaeologist and
Graham
Graham
Hancock.
Hancock. Yeah, Graham Hancock. In that, you can also see how bad scientists are, that they are in a box, they're following it like a religion. So it feels like they just created a lie and they just want you to follow that path, not to find the actual truth. So that's why I think uh, schools are lie. And I've studied till masters, right? I
Wow.
understand. Yeah, I have a master's degree.
Did your student loan debt get forgiven yet?
Yeah,
No, my parents were rich, so I
Okay. Yeah. Good for them. They had a lot of Bitcoin back then, didn't they? They were
yeah.
mining early on.
oh, you actually have a background in AI, right, Sid?
Yeah, I have computer engineering, so I have studied AI since 2008 when it was at
Wow.
the beginning.
Holy
So I
cow.
have a very good understanding of AI, and I don't
Wow.
So we
trust
can make
AI.
an AI bot of Paul McNeal. So when he leaves, we can just have like an AI of him that we can just kind of do these shows even when he's not here.
You
It
can
won't
do
be
Bitcoin.
him.
Right.
Because the thing is, they say
Okay.
that it's going to be him, but it's never going to be the same person.
I
It's
know.
always
It's never going to be
go
the
to
real
the internet.
Paul.
It's
I
yeah,
know.
and it will just give a bad rap to Paul. So I would rather not create a bot of Paul.
But talking what you said about the box, right? A box
Yeah.
turns into a coffin, right?
Yeah.
You have to think outside of the box, right? You have to keep sort of letting air into this box, and like you said, science is actually about not knowing, right? Being having wonders about what is out there, and sort of recognizing that your knowledge is limited. Like the great scientists actually knew that they knew very little, and that sort of and they were amazed by all the stuff that they didn't know, and they wanted to know about it. But in our schools, it's actually taught as if we know everything, and there's nothing more to know out there. It's like actually a pretty boring message when you sort of teach kids like, okay, now we know everything and that's it.
Yeah, and the thing with the current scientists are that they always make fun of the new scientists. Like the greatest scientist we know in our until today is Einstein, but he was mocked when he proposed his theory. So science have this issue that they are not open to new ideas, and they should have been.
Yeah, you mentioned that about Terrence Howard, and I'd be interested since you're a math guy and you do have your master's. Does he have something with this 1 × 1 = 1?
No, that was wrong.
Really?
The thing is, the language of mathematics is when you multiply by one, you don't. It's not like addition. So he's, I think, confusing addition with multiplication, because whenever you multiply anything by one, according to the laws of mathematics, it's exactly the same thing. You are not adding a new product. So what he was trying to do is like you have one, and when you multiply you get two, but that's addition, not multiplication. Multiplication is when you multiply anything by one, basically you're not multiplying it with anything, you are just multiplying it by itself. So that's where I disagree with him. Multiplication rule is not to multiply it with something else. It's like when you're multiplying it by one, it's by itself, and then when you do it by two, then you are multiplying it by another piece of it. Like if you have a box and you're multiplying it by one, it's not multiplying by anything, but when you're multiplying by two, so you have two boxes. So that's how the mathematics is written.
That's just it's weird.
3D also said something. It is also said Anyway, some kind of formula there.
A times B equals A instead of A B.
Yeah.
A times B equals C usually in algebra.
Right. So yeah, he was questioning that, but his whole thinking is very interesting. The whole flower thingy is
I
interesting.
agree with that part. The flower of life is that I agree. I agree with his periodic table chart because I think that makes more sense than the current version. People are so riled up about the periodic table, but I think that makes sense.
Gotcha.
To me, because they have a frequency. There's like I listened to a lot of chemists after that. They were saying that they create light and then you can convert that light into a tone, so that makes sense. And you can build, but according to a lot of chemists, I'm not a chemist, so but according to them, it's very hard to use that way, like that periodic table compared to the one we have right now. It's more implement, like you can easily implement what the periodic table we have right now.
Right. It goes by what you said before, though, and we live in a world in which we're taught things, told things, and we believe those things. We have a certain paradigm about life, and then what happens is until someone calls it into question, sometimes you don't even recognize it. You just go on about life in a certain way because that's what you're told, that's what you believe, and so it's hard to get to those core belief type things. That's just
Paul, about that, right? So basically, also we're taught in school to get along and to basically to follow, right? So do you think there's also room for confrontation, like because that's something that we're not taught at school or in public life, right? Because like you just said, in order to sort of improve and to learn and to get new knowledge, you actually need somebody or something to sort of bounce off of, right? To bounce ideas off to something that doesn't give, but actually sort of bounces you back, like your beliefs and your opinions, and so that's entirely missing in our society right now, right? Somebody who actually says, no, that's nonsense, you talk crap, or and of course using arguments and in a polite and constructive way. But what is your take?
Seven Habits addresses that by saying that you have to learn to agree to disagree agreeably, right? And that's really at the core of what it is. It's like, and I even told my grandnephew this. We were having a conversation. I told him, listen, I don't understand fighting. I just don't, because you always have the option to walk away. You can end any fight just by saying, okay, and then you walk away, right? And now if someone's going to chase you down and keep pestering you, okay, at some point they're going to get popped in the mouth, right? But at some point you have to be okay saying, if that's what you believe, I get it. It's okay, but I don't believe that way, and that's okay, and I'm going to go my way, you're going to go your way, have a nice day. But we have people that are really focused on, even Bitcoiners, right? Bitcoin's the only way, that's it. There's nothing else exists. Everything else is a shit coin and you shouldn't touch it, right? That's philosophy. Whereas some people say, no, but I like Bitcoin and Ethereum. Well, you're an idiot. Well, it doesn't make me an idiot. It means that I just happen to.
Don't make him an idiot. No. Makes him a total idiot.
Not a full idiot.
It's hard, but sometimes, and that's what I've learned too. On Twitter, I did it a lot. Some people really would come at me. I'm talking hard. They came for me. And I would just tell them at the end of the day, I said, okay. And I found out that after I said okay, they never followed up with anything else. So I was like, that's interesting. I think most people, once you tell them okay and they feel they've got their words out, they'll leave you alone. They won't mess with you.
Yeah, and I think it's also dangerous, right? By shutting down conversation or not listening to counter arguments, because if you think you know everything, it might turn out that you are missing something very important, like an attack vector, right? Or for example, when the Maxis or Bitcoiners talk with gold people like Peter Schiff or something, a lot of people tune out or ridicule the guy or whatever, but he is knowledgeable on some aspects, right? He might actually tell you something that you might not know, because the gold people have been in this game for quite a long time, right? And then even I'm not personally really against gold or silver anyway, right? So but there's this sort of competition and tribalism also within crypto and outside crypto and in politics these days. And sort of to tie it back with politics, right? I think Kennedy might build that bridge. Like, he's also somebody who searches for nuance and tries to bring people together.
And actually, let me just say, don't interrupt you, but on that point, Kennedy said this in that one of his videos that he recently did, that someone said, if people watch this, you sent me that video, I believe, Nick, but he said this in the video. He says, and I sent this quote out on Telegram. He says, if anybody comes to me and can prove to me that something that I've said or have done was incorrect, I will change my mind about it. He said that, and I think that is so mature for him to say, listen, if someone can truly come present something to me on one of my views that is not right, I will listen and I will adjust myself to that.
Yeah, it's just being smart.
Yeah, but I don't think he have any chance of winning, so I'll think we should focus on Trump.
No, I'm not. I'm sorry. I will tell people this every time, and again, we can agree to disagree. I am a never Trumper, and I always will be a never Trumper because of character, and that's the only thing I can say. He can tell me tomorrow that he will give me $1 billion in Bitcoin, and I'll still be like, you can keep the $1 billion in Bitcoin, go away. I don't have time for him. I don't want to listen to him, and I don't want to deal with him. Now, that being said, if he becomes president, he becomes president. Nothing I can do about that. I just roll on my merry way. But I will never vote for him. Never.
So yeah, no, this is totally your choice, and I agree with you. Like, you should have your opinion. I'm still a very liberal guy, but I cannot stand Joe Biden. So anyone who comes,
I can't either.
Yeah, anyone who is fighting against him, I will support him. Secondly, I have seen 4 years of Trump. He is more like a bad mouther than like a bad policy guy. So, and then he always give me laugh. Like, whenever he was a president, every day it was a joke in the morning. So
and he has his own NFTs.
He have NFT. So I think he's really good. And his recent speech, he said he will protect Bitcoin and everything. So I'm just saying, like, it will be much better than Biden, no doubt. And I think it will be a peaceful. Next 4 years will be peaceful if he wins, because I don't think any other country will go to war while Trump is the president, because everybody is afraid that he can do something stupid.
Yeah, and there weren't any wars during his presidency, right?
There were no wars because nobody had balls to go to war with anything, because they were afraid. Not they were afraid of Trump, they were afraid of his stupidity, because he could do anything. He was so unpredictable. And I think we need something like that to gather our breath. It's been 4 hellish years. I'm tired of this thing. And it's not like I'm a Trumper. I was an ever Trumper, and I am still a very libertarian guy. But I just want peace back and economy to grow, because economy is at shit right now.
Douglas is voting for JavaScript.
Yeah, exactly. JavaScript. I'm with you. What's that saying about the people that don't, something with privacy or security or peace, or I forget the quote, but it's the way I feel with Trump. I think people are willing to vote Trump in because they think that he's going to fix everything, and damn to everything else that he's done and will do. Is like, just as long as we get Trump in, he's going to save us. He's going to save us. No, he will not save you.
No,
we will save ourselves. We will save ourselves. We are the ones responsible for all the crap that goes on in the world. We are the ones to fix it, because we need to get ourselves together. Individual responsibility, and people don't want to do that. They want someone else to fix it.
Yeah, so but the thing is, we have certain power, and certain things we have to endure from the government. So we can fix some things, but a lot of the things has to be fixed from the top. So, and I don't think Trump will solve everything, but what I think is, like, things will be better than right now.
You might be right. Hey, listen, if he gets elected, we will find out. And I will remind people, though, if he does get elected and stuff doesn't get straight out,
Paul's coming back.
Yeah.
He's coming back.
That will bring me back. And once the election's over, if he won, I'm coming back with a vengeance.
Yeah.
So
let's pray he win now.
Well, I don't think prayers work in terms of election. It's just a vote. God is busy guy. He don't have time to go and work on the election campaign. Right?
Like, I'm a little busy up here handling creation and eternity. So
I have to deal with the infinitely big universe.
By the way, Gerald is in the
hey,
chat.
I know that guy.
No, Gerald Mata, the Oracle.
The Oracle is here.
Does anyone know who is his running mate? Because I saw somebody say
he didn't know.
Oh,
Not from Trump, I mean.
Oh, Trump, yeah.
No, he has not said it.
No, he hasn't. He hasn't.
Someone said Tom Cotton may be his VP, but he's now entering the deal. But Tom Cotton's a wild man too, so it'll be interesting to see who he picks as the VP.
I don't like Tom Cotton.
There was another senator from Missouri I saw that was just recently. His name was floated about, I believe.
It's going to be interesting who he picks, though. That's for sure.
I saw somebody, saying he should pick Nikki Haley. I think her name is, and that's like, oh my god, he does that. He's giving Kennedy the win, like.
Yeah, that would be bad.
It would be suicide if he does that.
Hey, Samantha says she supports Trump. She goes, I'm voting for Trump because Biden has been a disaster, and I agree with her. Biden's been a disaster, but voting for Trump, I don't know. We'll see.
Even like the reports I'm reading is that the big VC guys in Silicon Valley, they're shifting their support because they're like, hey man, and I think that and Paul, we've talked about this. And I know that you've touched on it as well in the past when we saw that whole run at Silicon Valley and Silvergate. Part of that, the speculation was that Peter Thiel and his buddies they got pissed off at not getting the cheap money anymore, and so we're pulling all our money out, and that kind of created what we saw in the spring of 2023. So when the big VC money from Silicon Valley starts to pivot and go in a different direction, and I just reading Gerald's comment here. Yeah, they're both dumpster fires, but I think though that's kind of a telltale sign as well.
It is. The VCs, listen, all the big money out there. What I've learned about politics is that it is a game of money, and it is a game of influence, and it's about just moving the pieces around on the chessboard, so to speak. And again, I will agree, Trump does it better than anybody else. The guy's 15 steps ahead of everybody else that's out there. And no matter what you think, he's already played the game. I think he's played the game with all these trials. He's going to come out of this thing smelling like a rose, and he will be the nominee and probably will be president at the end of the day. That's just the way it goes.
Actually saw an interview with Jim Rickards where, because he's lawyer from background, he actually was the main lawyer of long-term capital management, during the time when it went bankrupt. And he sort of negotiated the solvency of long-term capital management with the big banks. And he's explained that even if Trump is in prison, he can still be president.
Right? Oh yeah, like I said, Trump will do things that no other person in this world will ever be able to do, and he will be the first president from prison.
Yeah,
the orange man in an orange suit. I think it's like there you go.
You heard it first here.
I mean,
orange
is the new black.
It would be a nice campaign, orange suit, orange pill, orange guy.
Everything is orange. Everything is orange.
But I don't think he will go to jail. I think he will.
They can't. No, they don't have the system built to handle something like that. No, it won't happen. He's not going.
They'll just put bars around the White House. Oh wait, they already have a fence. And scratch that. They already got that. Okay.
They already got that.
So Paul, I want to ask you something else, because you've been curating the news, the crypto news. You've been doing that for over 5 years now, maybe longer. 7 years now. Sorry. So what is your take on how they are doing, and what could be done better, and what is terrible, and what is good? The good, the bad, and ugly.
The good, bad, and ugly when it comes to the publication. And again, if anybody's read my newsletter, I focus mostly on the crypto publications: CoinDesk, Cointelegraph, News BTC, News Bitcoinist, you name them. What I've seen is that Cointelegraph by far is ahead of every other publication out there. They release good content. It's normally factual content. It's relevant content. CoinDesk is right behind them, and both of those are sort of together. I forgot who bought CoinDesk. Do you guys remember who bought CoinDesk? Because they sold CoinDesk.
Was it Digital Currency Group?
I think DCG owned them, but I think they sold.
Oh, they got rid of it. They sold it off to someone else.
Yeah, because during all this whole CFI collapse and everything, and all this crap that went, I think they had to sell them, and they sold them to someone. But whoever bought them is now running CoinDesk. CoinDesk and the Block normally run articles the same, and I think CoinDesk was part of the Block, or they have something to do with the Block. And so some of these publications, you'll see break a story, and that story will run in most of those top tier publications. And then you have some other publications out there like Bitcoin Systemy. I don't know who runs that, but they are the worst. They have the most clickbaity titles, and most of their information is like breaking news, and they will say some of the most outlandish stuff, and it hasn't been fact checked, and it turns out to be wrong. So you have to be careful which ones you really put up, and so. But what I've learned is that they, for the most part, really are covering the space well. Some of them like to publish articles mainly about the analyst, and these are the Twitter analysts, not the real analysts. And that's like You Today. They will do a lot of them. Decrypt will do some with the analysts. Crypto Potato will as well. But most all in all, I think they do a good job at covering the space and giving you good information. But at the end of the day, you do have to check that information to make sure it's really factual, because everybody wants to be first.
And where are they lacking, right? I mean, what could be done better, even by them, like by the good ones? What they're missing?
What they could do is focus less on price and more on something of substance. But
that
again, guys,
the
listen,
news, man.
It is the news, man. It's the news.
KPIs.
Yeah. Most of the news that I curate, I started going back, and I have a spreadsheet now that I do it with, and I look at it and I'm like, yeah, this is all about price. And so every time I talk about stuff, I talk about number go up, because that's all everybody wants to hear.
Yeah, but they also have like the stupidest headlines, like Shiba Inu is going to $1. That's never happening. Shiba Inu can never go to $1.
Drives me crazy, man. XRP's rallying. XRP moved 2 cents, and they call it a rally.
Yeah.
I actually have a good friend at work who always asks me, what could I do if Shiba goes to $1? Like, and I always tell them, like, don't have to ask me. When that happens, you'll be gone. Like, you'll be owning the Bahamas. Right? So, like,
you'll be owning the whole world, by the way.
Probably, yeah, probably.
Well, in addition to that, what also gets to me is, and again, I understand, but this whole notion that 0.01 Bitcoin is going to make you rich, I'm like, guys, stop with this nonsense. You're not going to retire on 0.01 Bitcoin. If you do, then you're living somewhere that the cost of living is not that much. 0.01 Bitcoin, even at $1 million, yes, for the person that bought it at point, maybe it's a lot of money, but it's not going to do it, guys. I'm just wrong.
Yeah.
Now, again, I could be wrong, but I don't think so.
Yeah, but earlier you also said, like, if you're anybody, it doesn't really matter who you are. You should buy some Bitcoin in order to sort of to protect yourself, in order to protect your finances.
It just makes sense, even having some exposure to the best performing asset class ever. Like, why would you not? I mean, I could see, like, okay, maybe the naysayers from 2017 were like, it's a Ponzi scheme, blah, blah, blah. But now it's like, it's an ETF. We've got bipartisan support in Congress. I mean, we're seeing the record rates of adoption. It's become a primary focal point in a presidential election. At this point, I think the verdict's in. It's not a Ponzi. I mean, I'm specifically speaking to Bitcoin. Okay, that it's not a Ponzi. It's a definite an asset that's appreciated in value, and you can see that incrementally over the years. I think that it's a moot point.
But for example, you got Travis Kling and his theory about this run will be full of degens. It will be degen times 1,000, right? So if you're like a poor person or lower middle class, and you don't and your budget is going out the window. Wouldn't it make more sense to buy Shiba Inu or some other even lesser well-known meme coin in order to
go for Pepe, man?
I'll let these guys go first.
Yeah, why should they buy Bitcoin instead of a meme coin?
I mean, it's tough, right? It's tough. As a matter of fact, again, OnRamp is a really good one. But they were talking about that, and the guy from OnRamp that was talking from Charles Schwab, he was saying that as much as we talk against the Shiba Inus, all the meme coins, some of this stuff, it will have some traction. It just depends on if people are doing it because they know that it's a joke and that it's something that's going to go away, or are they doing it because they believe in it and they're going to be holding it for 1 million years? Like, there's two different philosophies there. So yeah, I mean, I don't mess with the meme coin stuff, and I know that I see news articles published where this person took $10 and they made $1 million in meme coins. I get it, but yeah, it's not me.
Yeah, that's not you. It's not going to happen to you, so don't even try. It's like, oh, I won $1 billion on the lottery at a scratcher. Great. That's that one person. That's not you.
And usually they are clickbaity news too, because
Yeah, they
when
are.
even you buy a meme coin for $10, it looks like you have $1 million in your account. But when you go and check the liquidity, you have like $10,000 liquidity on that meme coin. So basically, your $1 million are worthless.
But then there's another question, right, that follows up, right? So you're saying, and I agree, of course, that you should have exposure to Bitcoin, but then you should also self-custody, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's
Everybody's
the whole point of
self-custody.
crypto.
Yeah. So,
Douglas got a great comment there.
Oh, let's see what he says.
Yeah. Good.
Now, it's best to grab BTC or LTC or a main chain coin instead of a meme coin. If Shiba is on its own chain, then it would be worth more, and that's the real issue with meme coins. They rely on another.
Shiba is on its own chain. They released their blockchain, so it's own chain coin. It's not like a meme coin anymore. So I don't consider Shiba a meme coin.
Yeah.
Pepe is a meme coin, and by the way, I'm a big fan of Pepe. That is amazing.
I got some too.
Well, that's what they were saying on OnRamp. They said it, not OnRamp, sorry. This was Scott Melkener. He was talking with someone. He says, now we've entered a phase where we have to classify meme coins because all meme coins are the same. Like you just said, Shiba Inu has its own blockchain versus a Pepe. They're different.
Yeah, but then again, right? So you're talking to a lower middle class or a poor person, and you're telling them or advising them, because we don't give financial advice. But
I totally give great life suggestions, though.
But buy some Bitcoin. But then basically they should also self-custody it, right? Because otherwise you can just as well buy a meme coin.
Yeah. But the thing is that I told people this too. I've had this conversation. When you're looking at the normal person, and if we classify a normal person as someone who doesn't have $400 for an emergency, like if something happened today and it cost you $400, they go, I don't have the money. Okay, they've got bigger problems to worry about. Their first thing they need to learn how to do is actually save money and earn enough money that they can have disposable income to save, which they don't. So they've got bigger problems to worry about other than buying Bitcoin. But if they can buy it, then yes, I still think that Bitcoin is the best savings technology because the percent gain that you're going to get still will do far better than any other vehicle they could put that money in. So Bitcoin still becomes the de facto. That's what I think.
And I think, one of the nice things about Bitcoin and crypto in general is that it sort of engages you to, it makes finance fun, right? You actually see improvements. Like it's sort of what Dan Ariely, he's like a behavioral economist, said.
Yep.
Like if you sort of visualize or make money visible in some form, then it becomes fun to save, right? Because if it's sort of invisible in your bank account, you couldn't care less. But they ran sort of experiments in Africa where they visualize their savings and then you see it grow, and then then it becomes fun to sort of see it grow and allocate money to savings, right? So, and I think that's one of the nice things one of the things that Bitcoin does. It sort of makes it fun to save, and it encourages you to save because also the value goes up, right? Instead of going down with your normal bank account.
My idea for Bitcoin is like it's a rich people asset. So if you have like $200,000-$300,000, then invest in Bitcoin. But if you are like $5,000-$10,000, in my opinion, it's not a good idea because you won't see any gain, and then the drop will be the same. I'm not saying go and invest in like shitcoin, but like there are other assets like XRP, ADA. You can have like 3-4x in there, and then even Shiba Inu, you can still see 5x from here. So if you have like small amount to invest, and go in the smaller altcoins, and then if you have a lot of money, then definitely go for Bitcoin. Okay, and not only Bitcoin, also invest in gold, but the physical gold, not the digital one.
So since we're here already, let's talk about the market, right? Let's end with the market. Where are we? Where are we going? And of course, this is not financial advice, right? We don't get, this is just live suggestions.
Oh no, this is so financial advice. I'm taking notes. The whole reason I'm here.
So where are we in the cycle, and where do we see it go? And what else can we expect on the macroeconomic front?
Yeah, so as far as where we're in the cycle, I think that we are still early. And I said this before, someone tried to, completely dog me out about it. And I agree with what they were saying. I'm not saying we're early in the Bitcoin cycle, right? I'm saying we're early in this bull run cycle because I think the upside from here is at least double, right, from where we are today. So getting to 140K, anything above that, I think is gravy. With this ETF announcement for ETH, I think that's going to push us and might even push us in the altcoin summer, right? And so we might see altcoins start to rally. But if altcoins start to rally, I think Bitcoin will be getting near its top. So I don't think we're going to see massive ramp ups in altcoins until probably spring of next year. But I think it was Scott Melker that said that, and if it wasn't Scott, I forget who it was, but they said, it was Mike Alfred. Mike Alfred said around 90K he thinks is going to happen sometime in July and August. And then there's some that think that we'll get to 100 by the end of the year. If that all plays out, then I think that'll be good. But I think anybody that puts money in today, even at 70, is still getting ahead of this run, and they still have significant upside. So that's where I think we are.
And the others, where do you see it?
Yes.
Sid?
Okay. Yeah. No. So I think we are just getting started with the bull run, and we have time till next spring. The bear market, in my opinion, will start in next May. So we have time until then. So 2025 May is like the end of the bull market. The JP Morgan and some other banks are saying it will touch 100K by the end of the year, but I think it will touch it in October, 100K, and around mid-October, like 10th, 15th October, and then from there it will keep rallying up until spring. But when I say rallying up, it will up and down, it will go up and down, and then we will still see a huge pump in altcoins because of the ETF of Ethereum. So we will see a lot of money coming into Ethereum and from Ethereum to Ethereum based altcoins. And there is a possibility we see some other ETFs of other coins like XRP or Solana. That's a possibility. They are planning to file it, so we will have to wait and see. So that's my opinion. But yeah, I'm selling everything 2025 before May.
That's financial advice. Yeah, I think conservative estimates. I think 100,000 is still doable here by the summer. End of the year. I kind of got to give a tip of the cap to my man, Mr. Greenspan, over there at Quantum Economics. 280. I would love to see that. Definitely not going to be 1 million this year. I can tell you that right now. Just as a plebe sitting here looking at charts, it's not going to happen. I would love for it, but it's not.
So you're saying Samson Mows? You're saying Samson Mows incorrect?
I'm going to just respectfully disagree. I would love to be wrong. I respect Samson. He knows more than I do. He's balls deep in it. I'm sitting here in my bedroom on a Sunday. But that being said, I don't think $1 million is going to happen. The things for that to happen, I outlined that in a post back to Simply Bitcoin. They did a whole thing about $1 million this year. And I'm like, friends, I love your enthusiasm and your optimism, but it's just not going to happen. And for that to happen, I laid out 5 key things that had to unwind. And I don't necessarily think that that's going to happen. I do think, though, $100,000 definitely this year. I don't know when, but I think it's definitely on the table. And I think the bigger thing that we need to look at, though, is historically you look at these patterns. It's been 15 to 18 months after a halving that we've really seen this uptick. We saw this in 2021. Things got killed. But I think that the thing that's really, and I hate saying this time it's different because it's not, but I think what awareness is going to be a big factor here as we move past this halving into 2028, because now everybody and investors and BlackRock, they're hip to the game. They're going to understand what the halving means, and come by 2028, again, another election year, another halving. I mean, now we're talking about $1 million. Now I think that really becomes more like a topic of conversation, because BlackRock and Larry Fink and everybody else is going to go, oh shit, I know what a halving is now, and now I'm going to be ready. So we're going to go well past 100,000 by then. But between now and then, we still got some chop, we still got some turbulence, and ETFs for ETH, great. helps the market. A lot of folks have said it probably legitimizes the entire space, which I think is great for all of us who've been in it for a long time. All the naysayers who are like, oh, it's a scheme and blah, 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 blah. Okay, well, it gives us some validation, but the line needs to be drawn. Like, does Cum Rockets get an ETF? Oh, I can't imagine they're having conversations at BlackRock. Hey, Larry, let's go long on Cum Rocket. You know, I don't see that happening. You know, does Solana? Probably, because there's a lot of activity there in the ecosystem and in the community. XRP, I don't know, but I've always been saying this for a long time. I think once the thing with the SEC gets settled, they launch an IPO. That's what I would be looking for as far as Ripple, XRP. But those are my thoughts on that. Douglas has got a comment. What does he say?
Yeah, it's something that we also say. It's, you know, these halvings always they come together, or, you know, converge with election years, but also with the liquidity cycle, right? I'm a big fan of Michael Howell from Cross Border Capital, and this guy, you know, I've been following for, you know, over 2 years now, and he's almost always on point. And they sort of I forgot which bank he used to work for, but they sort of created this way to measure true liquidity in the financial economy, because, you know, M1 or M2 doesn't suffice for you know, really taking into account all the liquidity. And also on top of that, you know, with financial repression and basically what you need for a lot of liquidity is actually for the market to sort of stumble along. You know, it shouldn't have a heart attack, right? So that's perhaps the only way for Bitcoin to reach 1 million is, you know, if everything goes to shit. But but as long as the market or the financial world sort of hobbles along in a half depressionary mode, you got a lot of sort of excess capacity in liquidity sort of to stimulate the hell out of it by governments and central banks. And we're now in sort of that stimulation zone. So he's also saying, like, you know, somewhere around next year, that sort of liquidity phase that we've entered a while back sort of reaches a crescendo and then drops, right? So that's sort of, but I do think, right, if you have like a really big geopolitical issue, like, I mean, like a world war, for example, that kind of level, let's hope we never get there. But that kind of situation that could lead to, you know, things spiking, you know, to unimaginable heights, right?
Well, I think the other issue that really could move things in that direction away from taking war off the table is we still got a lot of like debt, commercial real estate. We have a lot of stuff here that is still yet to see the effects, that fruit to be born. And so I think that, you know, getting through the remainder here of 2024, even though it's an election year, like, what's going to happen? Like, the interest rates on these debts for commercial real estate is still through the roof. They're going to have to manage that debt, and plus the debt on the national debt, right? They're going to have to service that debt. And so the amount of money that's going to be required to service just those loans, it's insane. So they're going to have to turn the printer on at some point, or they let it break.
It's already running. Yeah, but they're doing it through treasuries, right? At the moment, the general account treasury, the TGA, and
that's why the U.S. stepped in, because Japan was going to dump treasuries, and like, oh no, can't do that, Japan. We got to step in and help stabilize your economy over there.
Well, right? China recently dumped like 50 billion of bonds.
Yeah, they were dumping like my dad and I going to the dump with him in his pickup truck when I was a kid. Like, they were dumping it.
Which also make me think that they're planning to launch their own currency, which we know they are, like BRICS currency. So that's why they're dumping dollar.
Oh, BRICS.
Because the moment they're gonna release it, it's the end of the dollar.
Paul's back. Good.
Yeah, I think Paul already left, but luckily
he's back.
No, I got rug pulled. That's all.
Yeah. So yeah, you see the Japanese yen. You know, they're trying to defend the peg. There's a lot of crazy stuff happening, right? So maybe that's somewhere we can sort of end, like, you know, with all the crazy stuff. And, you know, Sid and I do the bigger picture on Bitcoin Live, and we follow the really crazy stuff. But, you know, just the regular crazy stuff like wars and that kind of stuff, you know, a lot of crazy stuff is happening. You know, what is your take with all the crazy stuff? Where are we heading? What's going on? What should people do?
When I look at all the crazy stuff that's going on in the world, again, I think that most of the time, this crazy stuff doesn't directly impact our lives. Yes, it is crazy, it's wild, but our day-to-day really isn't impacted. And so I try to encourage people to keep focused back again on what's going on within your immediate circle, your world. Because like a lot of people go, the world's going crazy. I say, is the world going crazy or is your world going crazy? And most of the time, my world isn't going crazy. I tell people this all the time. I'm incredibly happy. I'm not stressed out about too much. I don't have anyone pissed off at me, and I'm rarely pissed off at anybody. So I try to operate my life like that, and I try and manage it. And I always believe you have to have plan A, B, and C. Because if you're not expecting, and I tell people this, and I try to encourage people, listen, I don't wish ill on anybody, but if you're not expecting your parents to die tomorrow, shame on you. Because listen, no one's going to live forever, especially if you have older parents that are sick and ill. If they passed away, why are you all freaked out about that? You know the day is coming. Are you prepared for it? If you're not, shame on you. If you got a job and you expect that you're going to have that job tomorrow, what's to stop your boss coming in tomorrow and say, hey, you're getting laid off, or hey, we're going out of business? If you're not prepared for that already, shame on you. You should be. So most people are ill prepared for the problems that are coming. And if you're ill prepared, that's on you. That's not on anybody else. And so my world, I do a lot of work to make it good for myself and for those people around me. Outside of that, not much I can do.
I agree. We should be prepared, and I call myself a prepper because I am preparing for apocalypse. I have all the things that. By the way, a lot of the things you're saying that are not affecting you, but they are passing a new law, which is drafting law. After Vietnam War, they put a ban on it. Now they're going to lift the ban, and then they can draft you to the war. So, which makes me think that a big war is coming. That's why they are making everyone ready. So
also here, by the way.
Yeah, so be prepared for that. And like what you want to do. I don't want to fight.
Well, they're not going to draft my old ass. I got a heart condition and I'm in my 50s, so I think I'm safe.
Yeah, that draft me. I've already served. I can't draft me. I served. I did 10 years.
That's double jeopardy, I believe, in legal terms, right?
That's right.
Yeah. Also find a place where to go when the apocalypse start. I know
so which place is that?
Yeah, Sid, where are you at again?
Yeah, I'm in Vancouver, but I know the mountain area where I need to go, where I can have sustainable food sources, like a lot of animals and a lot of
Whistler
water.
doesn't count, Sid. I've been there, okay?
I'm never going to Whistler. That's like a shittiest place. But then there are so many other places in interior BC where there are nobody. Where it's like a salmon area where salmon go to get killed by a bear. That's where I'm going.
Oh, okay. You and Sasquatch, okay.
Yeah.
But Sid, what you said is true, though. Let's just play this game out. Let's say they, in fact, do implement the draft. The smart man, the planned man, the prepared man, like you said, your prepper, is that you should pick which service you want to go into and volunteer and go there and pick the place where you're not going to get in trouble, right? There's some people that will push against it. Oh, I'm going to avoid the draft, blah, blah, blah. No, I've learned in the military, it's one thing you do. In the Navy, we say never again volunteer yourself. But I learned while I was in the Navy, you always volunteer because I got to pick the job that I wanted to do. And others got the shitty jobs. I got the job I wanted.
And would you also
I agree.
With what you said earlier, like, focus on the things around you, focus on your own life, get your own shit together. But also, get politically involved so we don't go to war in the first place, right?
Yes. Do as much as you can to influence the world around you for things that you would like the outcome. Again, I tell people I got enough issues within my own immediate family that I don't have to worry about going and trying to find it. I got a nephew who's living on the streets, got a niece that's pregnant, right? I got all this stuff going on. It's like I don't have to go search for problems to fix. I got them within my own family, and most of us do. So go focus on your family, get your shit together, and guess what? The world becomes better if we got our stuff together. But most people will complain. And I'll end on this. Most people will complain about politicians doing a crappy job, right? Well, let me go look at your job and see how well you're doing your job. I bet you it's not as well. And I bet you those politicians come and dog you out. People talk about how much the government spends, how much they're in debt. Your ass is in just as much debt as the government. So you have no grounds to talk about the government being in debt. Yeah. It's the way it is. We always want the government to do something and be the best. Guys, listen, you need to fix it. You fix it. If you got out of debt and you're not on government assistance, You're not part of the problem. You're part of the solution. Get part of the solution. If you got family members that's on government assistance, get them off of government assistance. Help them get a job. Help them go to work. I mean, it's just so much of the stuff that just drives me crazy with politics and how we want to dog the government, but yet we then cry out for the government when things don't go right.
And also, right, if you really have a collapse, right, of society, you know, that's something you really don't want to experience, right? We have no idea what we're talking about. So we really have to, basically what we should try to do, which is probably mission impossible, is to sort of clean out the government from within, right? To,
exactly.
you know, demolish the institutions that we no longer need, and to clean up the ones that we need, and to, you know, create new ones. We need like a long march through the institutions and, you know, clean them from within.
That cleaning thing will take decades, because you have to replace. Yeah, so I agree with Paul that we need to fix our surroundings, and that's the way to go. You cannot clean out the government, because when we go to the bigger picture, first of all, these people in the Congress, they are not even the real government. They're like the puppets of the shadow government. So you can't do anything about it.
Yeah, but you know, Sid, you and me, we do the bigger picture, and you know, and you and me also have a great respect for somebody like Ashton Forbes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And those people like him, and there's many others. I think Kennedy is also somebody like that. They are actually fighting this. You know, we should all support people like that, right? So these people are actually truth. They're bringing the truth out, and if we can sort of get this truth out to as many people as possible, then we can actually also improve the government two ways, right? From within and from without, right?
Yeah. And then there are some good congressmen like Tim Burchett, who is like chasing after UFOs. I really love him. Like, I respect him. So yeah, there are good people. But again, they never get enough power. They are always there as a showpiece to give an illusion that we have freedom and we have like democracy. But the reality, we know, right? We don't have actual democracy. It's just an illusion.
Yeah, but you know, I think, you know, when you sort of look at everything that's going on, there's also clearly a panic at the top, right? They're rushing stuff through that is insane, you know. So they are in panic mode, right? Clearly they're in panic mode, so that they can actually lose, I think.
Yeah, because back like 10 to 20 years ago, they had no idea that people can wake up. But because of the social media, a lot of people just woke up to the new reality. They are realizing what's wrong with the world, and that's giving them a panic mode. And on other hand, now US is not the only sole superpower in the world. There is another power, which is BRICS. So they are like stuck in the middle, that people are waking up and then they have a competitor. So yeah, they are in panic mode.
So Paul, let's give you the last word.
Sure.
You know, what do you want to tell people, and you know, what should we all do in crypto?
Sure. Yeah. My thing is for everybody that's in crypto, and even those that are outside of crypto, is definitely educate yourself. Again, the person said it earlier, education is going to be key. So the more that we educate ourselves on this, and that's why I encourage people to read, watch, and listen. If you're doing that on a regular basis, then it means that you're getting some good, and hopefully it's good information that you're getting from credible people. That's going to help tell you what you need to do. You won't need anyone to tell you exactly what to need to do. And again, you have to watch things like Bitcoin Live, because that's where you're going to get some really good information. Not only are you getting what you see in the traditional crypto pubs, but you're getting outside views on other issues that's related to, it's indirectly related to Bitcoin, but it's all still within the same scope. And so having good shows that you guys are providing, hopefully people are tuning in, they're listening, and then taking action on what you guys are sharing. I think that's the best that they can do, right?
And will you come back on Bitcoin Live in the future?
Like I said, if the election turns out how I think it will, I will, but only for one reason, just so when the crap hits the fan, I can be like, I told you.
Okay.
Oh yeah, we have to do election live broadcast.
Oh yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be fun. I would come back for that.
Yeah, and then we have to get George also on.
Yes, we have to have him on.
Yeah, and maybe Fibo for sort of keeping us grounded.
Exactly.
Okay, guys, this was the show. I think we're gonna wrap it up. Anybody have anything else to say, or? No,
we are good. Let's
Thank
end
you,
it.
Paul. I appreciate all you've done for the community, for the space, the education, the information. And man, you've been a pillar of truth, light, and love in the community. And I just wish you continued success. I know that will happen for you wherever you go. And yeah, much love.
Thanks, man. I'll be on Telegram, no funds. I'll be on Telegram.
All right.
Cool.
take care.
Bye.
All right.